So what I wanted to say that when I first met Alena a couple of years ago, I noticed obviously that she was very striking, but what I really admired was her poise. And then when I heard some of her story, her backstory, I was really impressed with her resilience. Alena is a clinical hypnotherapist, and she has also written a memoir, Ravishing, which is going to be available for purchase and for signing afterwards. She is one of the original Me Too survivors, but what she thinks is most important, and I think so as well, is that she emphasizes the love that we have for ourselves, and that we can all be sovereigns of ourselves. We don't have to let somebody else dictate to us our life paths. So I think this lady not only has poise and grace, she also has a lot of wisdom that we can learn from.
Thank you. That's such a beautiful introduction. Hi, welcome, Karen. Just have to take you all in. As I said to somebody when I got here, and they asked me if I was nervous, I said, these are my peeps. So I thought I'd actually start with a story. Don't you just love a story? So once upon a time, there was a dreadfully wicked hobgoblin who came up with a simply marvelous idea. He decided, I'll make a mirror that if anyone looks into it, even if they're beautiful and good, when they look in it, they'll think themselves ugly and bad. And it worked really well, because anyone who looked in it became unattractive and they thought themselves unworthy. And if somebody had something to hide or something they were ashamed of, that's what the mirror emphasized the most. So this evil sprite was so delighted with the result of his mirror that he decided, I'm going to take it up to the heavens so that even the angels think themselves grotesque and stupid. But while he was on his way up to the sky, the mirror fell and shattered into 1,000,000 pieces, and that's when the greatest misfortune happened, because every mirrored splinter, as small as a grain of sand, flew into the eyes of every inhabitant in the world. So from then on, when they looked out at the world and looked at themselves, they thought the worst. I'm incapable, I'm unworthy. And if a shard got into someone's heart, she thought herself unlovable. Now, I don't know if you recognize this story. It's actually the beginning of Hans Christian Andersen's The Snow Queen. And local therapists, Hal and Sidra Stone, I'm sure some of you know, wrote a wonderful book called The Inner Critic, with that as their introduction. So I've borrowed it for the beginning of my talk today, because I think it is a perfect allegory for that little nagging, incessant voice in our heads that wants to undermine and sabotage us. Now, I should know, because for most of my life, that incessant chatter in my head was like negative black noise. I really thought myself unlovable. I couldn't figure out why for a long time. And a spoiler alert for those who haven't read my book, at 58, I had what you'd have to say was a hypnotherapeutic intervention, which actually changed my life for the better. And if for those of you, there are probably a few people who don't know what hypnosis really is. Hypnosis is a way of accessing your subconscious mind through a deep meditative process so that you can bypass that inner critic that I'm talking about. Now, in a nutshell, in my particular case, again, for those who don't already know this story, I was regressed to my birth. And even though I already knew that I was a preemie, I was born 2 months early, and as often happens with preemies, they have a protective coat of dark, slick hair over their bodies, and I was my mother's first child, so she took one look at me and kind of drew back and said, "This can't be my baby. It's ugly, it looks like a monkey, I don't want it." Well, of course, this explained volumes about why I always thought that I was unattractive and unlovable. If your own mother, rejects you like this. But when I was restored to my full awareness after the session, I realized, well, but in a way that was an understandable reaction that she had, but it really didn't have anything to do with the way I turned out. There had never been anything intrinsically wrong with me. And so this made such a profound and permanent change that for one thing, I decided, I'm so grateful and I'm so impressed with this line of work. I have to get the best training I can so that I can provide this degree of outcome for other people who feel unworthy. And so I've been doing that passionately for the last 13 years. One of the things that I really know is that the real mirror we have is deep inside. Now, I'm sure everybody, before you left this morning, went ahead and looked in the mirror one last time, to check your lipstick or to make sure there wasn't food in your teeth. But we look in the mirror oftentimes for reassurance, when the real way of checking in is actually deep inside us. You can call it by all kinds of names: the essential self, the authentic self, the true self. Lots of times I like to think of it as true north. But a line that I really like is from The Little Prince, when he said, "It's only with the heart that one can see rightly." Now, in preparing for this talk that I knew that I was going to give this morning, I did a lot of research. I read articles in Psychology Today, and I watched a lot of TED Talks, and even a video by Oprah on self-love. And let's see. I revisited an essay by Emerson, and even borrowed lines from Shakespeare and Einstein and Gandhi. But my favorite resource of all was somebody that was unknown to me until I watched her TED Talk. A woman named Carolyn McHugh. Has anyone seen her TED Talk? It's called The Art of Being Yourself. And what I found out about her is that she has been a mentor to dozens of celebrities and captains of industry who came to her so that they could be as much of a success in their business as possible. And what she had to say is that the thing that every one of these extraordinary people had in common was that they had nothing in common. The thing they had in common was that they had nothing in common. And what she meant by that is that they embraced the thing that made them really different, the thing that they came into the world that was unique, a singular gift, and then they would offer that to the world. She said these people aren't afraid to take up the full real estate that the world granted them when they came into this life. And what I know is that most of us don't. We don't take up the space that's required of us. some of these folks are larger than life, and they don't apologize for it. She also said that, when we're born, we're given a life sentence. We don't know how long it is. But instead of thinking or obsessing about life expectancy, think about what life expects from you, right? Now, we all know what a superiority complex is, right? It's delusions of grandeur. I'm not talking about that. Or an inferiority complex is delusions of insignificance. Carolyn McHugh coined the word interiority, which she said is perceiving yourself as having no competition. Now, not from an egotistical or narcissistic point of view, but just that you know that basically you don't have to look outside yourself for permission or somebody else's opinion or approval or even recognition. That these people that she's been mentoring actually know that they can trust themselves with what they do. I came across this great image for self-love, which is, it's like the keel of a sailboat. Meaning, the keel is what provides ballast and direction and stability in any kind of weather. And think about this as it applies to your business, right? and that it's possible to sail without a keel, but really difficult to steer, and the chances of capsizing are a lot greater. So, as I've already said, I think it's so important to really check in with one's inner compass. That's where you can really find, your accurate way of proceeding. So, I promised I was going to mention something about Warren Buffett. I mean, he's arguably the most successful financially and as a businessman alive. And he said some surprising things when I looked him up about what constitutes success. He said that the most important word in the English language for your business is learn how to say the word no easily and often. And he said, don't give up something you already have for something you don't need. Yeah. He also really expressed how important the word love is. And that was the thing that surprised me more than anything. In all aspects of your life. How about that? Now, I was surprised to discover that apparently the person credited for the first time with offering the definition to insanity was Albert Einstein. Did you know that? And we all know what that definition is, right? It's insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result. Now, I'm sure we've experienced this both in our lives and certainly in our business, where the idea of doing something different than the way you've been doing it, even though it's really uncomfortable and it's not working out, but the idea of doing it differently, not knowing what's on the other side of that, seems scarier. So we use all kinds of coping mechanisms to stay where we are, knowing really that the only way change is going to happen is actually facing that fear of the unknown and doing it differently with the possibility of, something greater on the other side. We all know too, well, I should speak for myself, I know particularly that lots of times the events which really change us, which force us to change, are hard events, catastrophic. And as many of you, I think, know, I had a series of catastrophes about 10 years ago, what I call my tsunami of woes, which, which is that my husband and I lost our house, we had to declare personal bankruptcy, and my dad died, right? In this, the same period of time. And so that was, of course, a really hard time. What I did was I reached for a pen as a flotation device and started writing my memoir. Now, I didn't write about those things, as some of you know. What I wrote about was my most shameful secrets that I had been keeping inside. And in so doing, I really grappled with these hard things. And I can say that even though the growing pains were sharp, I changed. It stretched me. And now I'm taking up more real estate because of it. Yeah. Yeah. So, when I was in the 6th grade, I remembered doing this report on Emerson's essay on self-reliance. And of course, I don't remember the whole report, but I do remember the first line. I said, self-reliance is like a mental do-it-yourself kit. And the kind of self-sufficiency that Emerson was talking about, it's not egotistical at all. In fact, it's kind of closer to humility, because when you are coming from that place of self-sufficiency, what you actually do is take the ego from the prominent position and place it in a way that it's in service to the true self. So I'll explain what I mean using an example. When I work with clients, almost all the time, what happens is it's like I really park my ego. It's like it goes over here. I'm not thinking anymore about, I don't know, do I have food in my teeth? I'm not thinking about that at all. It's over there. And what I do instead is take this energy and focus and place it on my client so that together we're working on achieving the outcome that they need and want. So that's trusting what I have inside, this gift that I have, and using when I'm talking about that self-sufficiency. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I said it's closer to humility. My favorite definition of humility that I just found is that it's not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. and a really good example of that, of course, is Mahatma Gandhi. Yeah? And I found that he was asked toward the end of his life, what is your message to the world, Gandhi? And he said, my life is my message. And that's what I think. I think that yes, we all want to find the great work of our lives, but our life is our message to the world. Now I want to say that the line that I wanted to use from Shakespeare is not the one you think I'm going to say, the most famous line. It's to thine own self be true. What Polonius said to his son Laertes, to thine own self be true. And I want to ask you one very stark question, which is, if you could be the woman of your dreams, who would you be? Yeah. So, You think I just put you on the spot, but not at all. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lead everybody through a guided visualization to precisely that version of yourselves. So I want you all to get comfortable, as comfortable as you can in these chairs. And then you can leave glasses on if you want, but you're not going to be using that way of seeing. So I want everyone to take a deep breath with me. Let's do it. And let it out. Take another. And one more. And please close your eyes. Now, what I want you to imagine is that you are on the 10th floor of a high-rise building. You are standing outside a bank of elevators. You step toward one particular elevator. You press the button with the arrow indicating you want to go down. The elevator doors open, you step inside, they close behind you, and what you can see is a panel that's lit with numbers descending all the way from 10 down to 1. You press 1, indicating that you want to go all the way down to the bottom. The carriage begins to move. The light goes out in 10 and starts to move down, and there isn't anything for you to do but just surrender to that movement. You can actually even feel it in the inside of your body that you are moving down with the elevator. As you can see the number go down to 9, and then the light goes out on that and comes down to 8, and you're still just letting go, just allowing this movement as you move lower and deeper down to 8, and then 7, and then even lower still, really allowing that, just letting yourself go all the way down from 7 to 6, and you watch the numbers as they descend all the way down to 5, you're halfway down, and just letting that happen, going lower and deeper still, all the way down to 4, and then 3, going down, descending all the way down to 2, almost there, all the way down to 1. 1. 1. Now, you had thought that you were alone in the elevator. You've just been looking at the panel, watching the numbers go down. But as you look out of the corner of your eye, you can see that there's another passenger, another woman in the elevator with you. And she is so striking. This woman has poise and grace, and you just can tell by looking at her that she's confident, she's comfortable in her skin. She's really got it going on. And you know that this is somebody who respects herself. You can just tell. And she has so many of the qualities that you admire most. So as you move toward her to touch her on the shoulder and pay her a compliment, what happens when you touch is that you touch the mirrored glass wall of the elevator and realize with a start that you have been looking at a reflection of yourself. And as you're taking in the full compliment of how you really look, it actually makes you think about something you've done in your life that you feel so good about, an accomplishment. It could well be in your business, something that you've done that made you proud. You know, that quiet kind of pride inside. You really remember that moment, and you allow yourself to fill with those feelings of that quiet pride And then you also realize in this moment how much you have to be grateful for. There's so much in your life that you're taking this moment to really appreciate. And then as you move right toward the wall, it isn't solid. You move right through it and merge entirely with that image of yourself feeling this good about yourself, loving yourself. And her head really becomes your head, her arms yours, her torso, her legs. You are fully embodying this version of yourself. You could say, the woman of your dreams, the most evolved version of yourself. And really allow yourself to fill with the truth of that. This is who you really are. And then feeling utterly filled with that knowledge, with that truth, you step back over the threshold, back into the elevator, and know that you're ready to enter the world again. See yourself pressing number 10 so that you can rise up. And as I count the numbers, you are going to begin to return to your fully aware, alert self. And number 1, I want you to really notice, now that you think about it, that you are loose, limp, and relaxed. 2, 3, 4, notice that you are feeling physically fine. On 5, that you feel emotionally calm. 6, 7, you're surprised at how mentally alert you are. It's a big surprise. And 8 and 9, on the next number I count, you're going to be restored to your full awareness, knowing the truth of who you really are and that you really love yourself. Number 10, eyes open. Now, you can't help but have noticed that you have a Valentine on your chair. And so now is the time, with these ideas and insights that came through during this session, to write a Valentine to yourself. Thanks, Nat. We're just going to take a few minutes to do this. some people are still writing, so we're still going to take a couple minutes, make sure everybody is able to finish. Maybe just one more minute. Is everybody done? Yes? Yeah. Okay. So, I'm not putting anybody on the spot. If anyone wants to share anything about, the process of what came through, or certainly if you have any questions or comments about the talk, now is the time to do that, and I'll do my best to answer questions. Who wants to offer something? Or has a question or comment? Yeah.
I have writer's block.
Oh.
I'm so accustomed to saying I love you to my kids, or to express gratitude to others, and I was just stuck. I didn't know what to say to myself. And when I thought about it, actually, even in my journal, I don't write about myself. I write about things I do or things that people say.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe as a writer, we're trained to observe rather than be reflective. I don't know. In any case, I was stuck.
That's a great observation, though. Thank you for sharing that.
After we did this process, it was effortless writing this Valentine. I was amazed at how effortless it was.
Great. How about that? Did other people feel like that more than usual? Yeah? Yeah, yeah.
I tried not to worry about what I wrote.
Well, and is that different a little bit? To not worry about what you write?
I don't write, so it was very different.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Great, thanks. Yeah. Michelle.
I think it's noteworthy that when we look in the mirror, we're looking for what looks good, we're looking for flaws.
Say this again.
When we look in the mirror, we're often not looking for what's right, we're looking for what's wrong.
Yes, yes, that's what I meant about for reassurance. Yeah.
But I wonder sometimes, what is the difference? How do we see what the difference is between what is good about ourselves that needs to be embraced and what needs to be changed?
Yeah.
Sometimes our uniqueness, I was thinking just yesterday that I've always been told that I'm too intense. And I thought, actually I was walking up the steps of the Stanford at the time, and everything there was extremely sedate. Beyond sedate.
Yeah.
And I worked there briefly. It was a lovely place, but I thought, why would someone who is extremely intense be working in a place like that? Perhaps I need to find somewhere where whatever it is that I am is appreciated and fits.
Mm-hmm.
And then you think, well, but is there such thing as too intense? So that, or people who, that imposter syndrome, right? Well, how do you know the difference between, no, I can't do this just because we have imposter syndrome, and no, I can't do this because we can't?
Yeah, yeah. I love what you said. I'm thinking back to remarkable people who take up space, and what it made me think of, who are the women who I admire? And I thought of Toni Morrison and Aretha Franklin and Michelle Obama. I mean, there are a lot. But when I thought about them, they're bigger than life. and unique, and for your purposes, you could even say intense. I mean, you see Aretha Franklin sing Amazing Grace, and it's a numinous moment, obviously I'm on the side of the camp that says, whatever you are, embrace that. That's what I do. For a long time, I paid more attention to what other people think or might think, and not so much anymore. Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing that. I saw another hand. Yeah.
It's a goodness of fit that, there's a bell curve, and if you're really intense out here, it's not so much, I understand what you're saying about imposter syndrome, but I really think the bandwidth of people that will be a goodness of fit is just narrower because of your intensity, but that's not imposter syndrome, that's just you need to find your goodness of fit.
When I'm teaching men, working with a leader, trying to teach him to lead, that intensity is not negative. So,
Yeah. Yes.
I was really struck by the little piece you spoke about territory and embracing our territory. Real estate. And
Yeah.
I just felt myself kind of expanding more space, almost a permission to.
Well,
At that moment.
you're even taller than I am.
I am.
And the woman next to you is even taller than I am. But being still a tall person, I wonder if you can relate to the fact that for a long time, I used to try to accommodate others, who were shorter or smaller, or, by sort of, crouching down or, thrusting out a hip or doing something. And that's not okay. That's not being fully who you are,
So you didn't have to do that with me.
No, and I don't even stand on my tippy toes with you. Yeah. Anyone else? Something that you want to say? Catherine, yeah.
I think lately I've just been feeling inadequate and kind of helpless because of the situation our country is in.
Yeah.
And I don't know, and I'm like, I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
And being inadequate. And then with your exercise, it just helped me reflect that I have affected a lot of people over my life.
Yes.
And maybe position them to be in a better situation so that they can be stronger in this. So it started helping me see that, right, I'm just doing the best I can in the space I have and the situation that I have. And
Yeah.
not to feel so beaten down by, what's going on around us that we can't control, but,
Yeah.
realizing that I have set the stage in some areas and I should be settled in that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, so I've had a similar experience. I've felt the need to compartmentalize instead of being completely open within myself, because otherwise it intrudes upon, work and personal life. I have had the opposite experience that people, some, cousins that I kind of was not an adoptive mother, but definitely was involved in their lives. They have chosen to be conservative, and I cannot, we can't discuss certain things. I have to close off that part. But there's a lot of disappointment there that instead of opening up, despite my influence, it hasn't gone that way. And I don't know, it seems like you open yourself to love, but you have to be careful because you can get hurt more easily. And I don't know, it just seems like against the principle, but the way the country is and the way, some people are reacting, you have to be protective to a certain extent.
Still, it's your reaction to them. You could, choose to react any way at all. We always have that option. It's not what happens, but how we decide to react to any particular event. I'm really glad that you brought this up, Catherine, because certainly I've had the same thought, very, very similar thoughts. And what happens in my practice is that a certain number of people are, I can certainly say, more anxious than usual. It's really very noticeable. And so it's important that I do whatever I can to take care of myself so that I can help them, you know, get out of that place of despair and frustration and anxiety. And I just, I'm reconciled by the fact that I know that I'm doing good work to help individuals, you know, work through this. So it's not far removed from what you're saying. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wanted to clarify something, because I think you took my real estate as being about my height.
Oh, I didn't.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I just spun off on that.
Okay.
No.
I was talking about my life.
No, I actually knew that and decided to take a little segue. It was personal, you know, because we've known each other for such a long time. And as you said, you're such a good, loyal friend. We've known each other a long time.
For me, I'm looking at words and how I choose to use them. And the word intense could be good or bad, could be what it means to you, valuable or invaluable. So I'm looking at what value I put on what people tell me and what value I put on what I tell myself. And hearts are meant to open and close as we need them so that we can maintain and stay safe. These are my thoughts that I give. The heart chakra opens and closes as it feels safe and as it doesn't. And where, for me, I'm learning that wherever I am is exactly the right spot, always, so that I can be and find what it is I'm supposed to be doing on a grander scale, that real estate. So I'm really looking at how I value the things that I tell myself and whether or not they're true, or things that I've learned to believe, correct or not.
Yeah, thank you, Monica. That was great. Yeah.
I was going to add to that I think protectiveness of yourself is loving yourself often. I had to actually learn how to protect myself more. I mean, and not just from bad stuff in my life, but just that I was so open. And
Yeah.
I had to learn that, you know, I had to learn boundaries. And so it's been a struggle a lot in my life to find the right balance of boundaries. But, you know, I think our political situation now increases the need to do that and to know that that's self-love and that you have to protect some time for yourself, not to be there, but like say, for me it's doing art, any of the arts, or walking in the woods, or, you know.
Yes.
And I think that's essential, and it is a form of protectiveness, and it's okay. So that's what I think about protectiveness.
Yeah.
It also still allows the exchange.
It's renewal.
You closing
too.
your heart down still allows the exchange between the people you love without completely shutting them out.
No, I realize that, so I unfriended on Facebook, but I did help them with a website.
Oh.
And they visited, and we just did not discuss that. But the disappointment is there, knowing these people since they were babies, and, you know, telling them that it's okay to have different faiths, to have different beliefs, and for them to, in their adulthood, choose unconsciously. They don't realize that they're negating me by doing that. In any case, but so I have done this, but dealing with the disappointment is still not something I understand how to process.
Yeah, I'm learning that too.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about, you know, how challenging it is to not, you know, compare yourself to other people and their successes. And it's always been that way, but it's so much worse now with, you know, just everything that we have access to, right? Social media. There's so much good out there. You can sit and watch TED Talks, you know, all day long and get good things from it, but also, you know, I feel the pressure to get to everything that people are, recommending.
Oh,
Or that I'm not, it's just the overwhelm of what's out there, to kind of that, idea of the digital detoxing, right? To just get yourself back,
Yeah.
to in your own
I
space.
liked digital detox. That's pretty good.
Well, there's on it, and I know people who have done it, but it really is, there's a lot of good out there, but there's a lot of
Well,
opportunity to, compare yourself.
Yeah, I didn't stress self-care very much in this talk just because I thought, well, that's pretty obvious, but this brings that up, that in order to have balance in our lives and make sure that we actually have the resources to do our work and for our families, for ourselves, for every aspect, the full pie chart, that we really do need to make sensible, healthy choices. And so walking in the woods or whatever it is for you, that's a better choice than turning to social media. I've had to do that. I can absolutely relate to what you're saying. There's only so much that makes sense for one to do, given what the priority really is. Right. It's your life.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I should be looking at this, or I should be reading this book, and it's just something. Well,
again, in a way that's coming from outside, right? Rather than from the interior.
Well, the should.
Yeah.
Inner critic and that.
The shoulding all over ourselves, yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you all so much. Thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure. And I think we still have time for announcements.